Welcome back, everybody. Today's deep dive is a little bit different. We're exploring the 50-second hexagram of the I Ching.
Okay.
It's often called keeping still, or Gen. We've got excerpts from a text that
Like it.
focuses entirely on this hexagram.
Interesting.
And I'm so excited to unpack all this.
Yeah.
It's all about stillness, immobility, being careful.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this really curious challenge of picking dates
Oh,
with a short stick.
okay.
So buckle up. This is going to be interesting.
Oh, I'm excited to delve into this. It's full of rich symbolism and thought-provoking imagery.
Yeah. And just to give everybody a starting point, this hexagram actually has a few different names. We've got Gen, keeping still, mountain, immovability.
Right.
What do you think is the most striking name and why?
For me, it's mountain. It's so evocative.
Yeah.
And it's not just a random label.
Yeah.
The hexagram itself is formed by two mountain trigrams,
Okay.
one on top of the other. So imagine two mountains, one on top of the other. You know, you, the listener, might be going through a time where there's all these external forces that are trying to sway you.
Yeah.
But this hexagram reminds you of the power of staying grounded in your own values.
Yeah. I like that. And it really does reinforce this idea of stillness.
Yeah.
That image
Right.
of this double mountain acting as this sort of lock or blockage.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think of those times when you feel like you're hitting a wall.
Yes.
You know, you push and you push, and you just can't seem to move forward.
Exactly. It's like the universe is saying,
Yeah.
pause, take a breath.
Yeah.
Now is not the time for forceful action.
Yeah, okay.
This hexagram's all about moving carefully, deliberately, choosing your battles wisely.
So no bulldozing ahead then?
Not exactly.
Yeah.
This isn't about being passive, but
Right.
rather about being strategic.
Okay.
There's a line in the text that says,
Mm-hmm.
it is difficult to pick dates with a short stick.
Oh.
And it really captures this idea.
Now that one really threw me for a loop. I mean, what do dates and sticks have to do with anything?
That's what's so brilliant about the I Ching. It uses these
Yeah.
seemingly random metaphors
Yeah.
to illuminate these profound truths.
Yeah.
Think about it. Trying to pick dates with a short stick.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be frustrating, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to reach the best ones.
Right.
And this connects to the challenges that we face in relationships, partnerships, finding the right people.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're simply not equipped to navigate those aspects of our lives effectively.
And I gotta say, this hexagram does not sugarcoat things when it comes to relationships and ambition.
Oh,
It literally says that planning and seeking wealth is laborious,
okay.
and marriage and partnerships are ultimately empty.
Wow.
I mean, that's pretty bleak, isn't it?
Yeah,
Should we all just give up on love and success?
I can see why that might sound discouraging.
Right.
But remember, this is all within the context
Sure.
of keeping still.
Yeah.
It's not saying those things are inherently bad,
Okay.
but that they might not be the focus right now.
Okay.
This isn't the time to be chasing external validation or material possessions.
So it's more about shifting our priorities,
Yes.
focusing on the internal rather than the external.
Yeah, precisely. It's about cultivating a sense of inner peace
Mhm.
and contentment
Yeah.
that doesn't depend on outside circumstances.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So when it comes to fortune,
Yeah.
what's the overall message? Should we just stay under the covers and wait for a better day?
Not quite. But the hexagram does emphasize caution.
Okay.
It's saying, avoid rash actions. The road ahead is blocked. Wait for the right moment. It's about recognizing that sometimes the wisest course of action is to simply be still, to observe, to listen to that inner voice that's guiding you. Think about your own life, listener. How often do you feel pulled in a million directions, bombarded by information and demands?
All the time.
This hexagram reminds us that true stillness isn't just about physical quiet. It's about finding that calm center within ourselves, even amidst the chaos.
Yeah, I like that. So it's not about being completely passive,
Right.
but rather about choosing our actions carefully,
Right.
being mindful of the timing and the potential consequences.
Exactly. And speaking of consequences, the text actually gets pretty specific
Yeah.
about certain areas of life,
Okay.
like health,
Mm-hmm.
lost items,
Okay.
and even legal matters.
Okay, now we're getting to the juicy stuff.
Okay.
Let's start with health. What does the hexagram have to say about our well-being?
Well, it suggests a time of potential vulnerability,
Okay.
urging us to be extra careful with our health.
Yeah.
It specifically mentions illnesses being difficult to treat,
Mm-hmm.
and even points to potential issues with the gastrointestinal system. blood vessels, and even tuberculosis.
Whoa, that sounds serious. So maybe this is a good time to prioritize rest, healthy habits, preventative care.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that neglecting our health can have lasting repercussions.
Okay, noted. Now, what about lost items?
Yeah.
I'm always losing my keys, so I'm hoping for some good advice here.
Well, the text says that lost items can be retrieved,
Okay.
but it might take some time and effort.
Okay.
Interestingly, it also gives us some clues about where to look.
Oh, do tell.
It suggests checking places like your home, hotels, temples, or, and this is where it gets interesting, somewhere in the mountains.
So if I lose my phone, I should just head for the nearest mountain peak.
Well, maybe start with checking under the couch cushions first.
Right. Okay.
But it's fascinating how even lost items are tied back to the theme of mountains and stillness
Yeah.
in this hexagram.
It's like everything circles back to that core idea. Now, what about legal matters? What kind of guidance does the hexagram offer for navigating those tricky situations?
It warns that small issues can escalate quickly,
Okay.
so it advises seeking peace as soon as possible. And this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
It says to be wary of people with Earth-related surnames.
Wait, what? That sounds like something straight out of a fortune cookie. What's the deal with that?
It's obviously not about literally avoiding anyone named Hill or Stone,
Right.
but about understanding the underlying message.
Okay.
These Earth-related names symbolize qualities like stubbornness or rigidity, which can be challenging to deal with in a conflict.
So it's more about being aware of the potential energy dynamics at play.
Exactly.
Understanding that some people might be less flexible
Right.
or open to compromise.
Exactly. It's about reading between the lines, understanding the symbolic language of the I Ching.
Got it. So we've got mountains, stillness, patience, and a whole lot of symbolism to unpack. Now, I know the text also dives into the original I Ching lines. Yes.
And how they relate to keeping still. Want to walk us through those?
Absolutely. The lines actually show a progression
Okay.
of keeping still,
Okay.
starting with specific body parts,
Okay.
toes, calves, hips,
Mm-hmm.
and then moving to the whole body, eventually culminating in noble-hearted keeping still.
So it's like a gradual increase in stillness,
That's a great way to put it.
starting with small parts of ourselves and then encompassing our entire being.
It's fascinating how this hexagram speaks to both the internal and external aspects of stillness. It's not just about physical stillness,
Right.
but also about cultivating a stillness of mind and spirit.
Right. So it's about being present, being grounded,
Exactly.
not letting ourselves get swept away by chaos and distraction.
Exactly. And that can be a real challenge in today's world where everything is so fast-paced
Yeah.
and constantly demanding our attention.
No kidding. My phone is basically an extension of my hand at this
I
point.
think that's why this hexagram is so relevant.
You know, even though it's thousands of years old, it offers a timeless wisdom
Yeah.
about the importance of finding that inner stillness, its center of gravity, in the midst of all the noise and movement.
It's like a reminder to just breathe,
Exactly.
take a step back,
Yes.
and reassess.
Exactly. And to remember that sometimes the most powerful action is inaction.
Yeah.
Or, as this hexagram puts it, keeping still.
And this noble-hearted keeping still, what does that even mean? It sounds so grand.
It really does. And it's the culmination of that journey we were talking about, the ultimate expression of this hexagram's energy. It's not about being passive or fearful, but rather about a stillness that's grounded in wisdom, integrity, and a deep understanding of the natural order of things.
So it's like a higher level of stillness.
Yes,
A stillness that comes from a place of inner strength and clarity.
exactly. It's about aligning ourselves with a greater purpose, a sense of knowing that even when things feel chaotic, there's an underlying order to the universe.
And the text says this noble-hearted keeping still leads to good fortune, right? So there's hope for us yet.
Absolutely. It suggests that by cultivating this inner stillness, this noble-hearted approach to life, we can achieve a state of harmony and fulfillment. It's a beautiful reminder that even in stillness, even in moments of pause and introspection, there is profound potential for growth and transformation.
I love that. And I think it ties back to what you were saying earlier about choosing our actions carefully. It's not just about waiting for things to happen. It's about using that stillness to gain clarity and insight so that when we do act, we're acting from a place of wisdom and purpose.
Precisely. It's about being proactive in our stillness, using that time to connect with our intuition, to reflect on our values, and to make choices that are aligned with our highest good.
Now, I'm going to ask about this marriage and partnerships are ultimately empty thing again. Because on the one hand, whoa, harsh. But on the other hand, I can kind of see where it's coming from.
It's definitely a statement that makes you stop and think. But remember, this hexagram's all about shifting our perspective, looking at things from a different angle.
So maybe it's not saying that relationships are inherently bad, but that they shouldn't be the sole source of our happiness or fulfillment.
Right. It's about recognizing that true happiness comes from within, from cultivating a sense of self-love and acceptance. It's not about seeking validation or completion from others.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. It's about finding that sense of wholeness within ourselves rather than looking for it in other people.
Exactly. And that's not to say that relationships can't be fulfilling, but they shouldn't be seen as the be-all and end-all of existence. They should complement our own inner peace, not define it.
So maybe this hexagram is actually a good reminder to, check in with ourselves, make sure we're not overly reliant on others for our happiness.
Absolutely. It's about cultivating a healthy sense of independence and self-sufficiency. It encourages us to examine our motivations for seeking partnerships and to ensure we're entering them from a place of wholeness, not lack.
That's such a valuable insight, and it makes me think about the whole Earth-related surnames thing again. Is there a connection there, do you think? Like maybe those Earth-related qualities of stability and groundedness could actually become obstacles in a relationship if we're not careful?
That's an interesting connection, and it might be especially relevant to you, listener. Think about the people in your life. Are there any relationships where you feel like you're constantly butting heads against someone's immovability? This hexagram might be suggesting a need to adjust your approach, to find a way to navigate those differences with more grace and understanding.
So it's not about avoiding those people altogether, but rather about learning to communicate more effectively, to find a way to work together despite those differences.
Exactly. It's about finding a balance between holding on to our own values and being flexible enough to adapt to different perspectives. And remember, sometimes the best way to deal with an immovable force is to simply step aside and let it pass.
That's such a great reminder. And it brings us back to that core idea of keeping still. It's not just about physical stillness, but also about cultivating a stillness of mind, a space where we can observe, reflect, and choose our actions wisely.
Right. It's about responding to challenges with a sense of calm and clarity, rather than reacting impulsively. Think of it like this. When a storm comes, the trees that bend with the wind are the ones that survive.
That's a beautiful analogy. And it makes me think that even though this hexagram is all about keeping still, it's not about stagnation or passivity. It's about harnessing the power of stillness to fuel our growth and transformation.
Exactly. It's like we're drawing energy from that stillness, like we're using that time to recharge and refocus so that when the time is right, we can emerge stronger and more resilient than ever before.
So it's not about waiting for the storm to pass, but about learning to dance in the rain.
I love that. It's about finding joy and meaning, even in the midst of challenges, about embracing the ups and downs of life with grace and resilience.
Now, I know we've been focusing a lot on the challenges and the more cautionary aspects of this hexagram, but I'm also feeling a sense of hope in all of this. Like, there's a possibility for growth, for transformation, for finding a deeper kind of peace.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's the beauty of the I Ching.
Mm.
It doesn't just point out the potential pitfalls, but it also offers guidance on how to navigate them and ultimately emerge stronger and wiser.
And that final line about noble-hearted keeping still, leading to good fortune is a pretty powerful image, right?
Yeah.
It's like if we can cultivate that stillness, that integrity, that connection to something greater than ourselves, then good things will naturally follow.
Exactly. It's a beautiful reminder that even in stillness, even in moments of pause and introspection, there is profound potential for growth and transformation.
It's like even though the road ahead might be blocked, it doesn't mean we're stuck. It just means we need to find a different way forward, maybe a more mindful, more intentional way.
Precisely. And that's what this hexagram is inviting us to embrace the stillness, to listen to our inner wisdom, and to trust that even in the midst of uncertainty, there is a path that will lead us to where we need to be.
I love that. It's like we're not just passengers on this journey.
Right.
We're active participants,
Yes,
co-creating our reality with each choice we make
exactly.
or don't make.
And sometimes the wisest choice is to simply be still,
Mm.
to observe, to listen to that inner voice that's guiding us. This whole deep dive has really made me reflect on how often I try to force things to happen instead of trusting the natural flow of events.
You know.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
It's like we live in this culture that glorifies doing, achieving, constantly moving forward. But this hexagram reminds us that there's immense power in simply being, in allowing ourselves to rest and recharge, and trusting that things will unfold in their own time. Right. And that's not always easy, especially when we're surrounded by all these messages that tell us we need to be constantly striving, constantly productive. But this ancient wisdom offers a different perspective, one that values stillness, introspection, and a deep connection to ourselves and the natural world.
This has been such a fascinating exploration of keeping still, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface. But if someone is listening to this thinking, okay, stillness is important, but how do I actually apply this in my life? What advice would you give? Like, where do they even begin?
I would say start small. It doesn't have to be this grand gesture. It could be as simple as taking 5 minutes each morning to sit in silence and just breathe. Or maybe it's turning off your phone for an hour each day and just being present with yourself and your surroundings. It's different for everybody. The key is to find what works for you and to make it a regular practice.
Those are great practical tips. And I think it's also important to remember that stillness isn't about being passive or inactive. It's about finding that inner balance, that center point from which we can act with clarity and purpose.
Exactly. It's not about shutting down or withdrawing from the world. It's about cultivating a sense of inner peace that allows us to engage with the world from a more grounded and centered place.
Well said. This has been an incredible deep dive into the 50-second hexagram. So much to think about, so much to apply to our own lives.
It really has. And I think it's just a glimpse into the vast wisdom that the I Ching offers. I encourage everyone to explore this ancient text further and discover its insights for themselves.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll leave you to contemplate the mysteries of the I Ching and the power of keeping still. Until next time, happy exploring.